Kia ora, everybody. I'm real sorry for cutting into that notice, but the time for my program has come, and I've got Margie phoning up in a while, and we don't want to miss that. So I'm sorry to anybody who is listening to that message. It was a COVID-19 message, but it will play a number of times, at least once a day. And there's a whole bunch in quite a number of Pacific Island languages, as well as Te Reo Māori and in English. So we're doing our best to keep you informed. Now, this is Isolation Blues, as I said. Margie, who used to do a program called The Good Life, is phoning up to say really how tremendously well prepared she has been for isolation, because she does small farming and is very much into sustainability. Let's go to a bit of music. I've got a great track here by Sun Ra and his orchestra, and hang on, there you go. I think it's called... It reckons it's really long. Or really short. I don't know. Let's see. Off you go, Sun Ra. That was very short, wasn't it? Let's have another one from Sun Ra. Off you. Right. Everybody, I was going to say I'm going to interrupt that, but you weren't hearing it anyway. Yeah. I believe you can hear me. Let me just put my headphones on. This has been kind of interesting. We did a whole lot of changes here in the studio on Friday, was it? And my brain has leaked and I can't remember how it goes anymore. No doubt Toby will inform me of that later. But I tell you what, I'm just going to go back to the normal music just for a moment, because I may be getting this wrong. Back with you in a sec. All right, I'm interrupting again. I've sort of got it figured out, so we won't be hearing Sun Ra and his orchestra, which is a pity, because I enjoy it. But never mind, we've got something much better coming up. Margie's going to be phoning in and telling us how she's coping during this period. I should mention, people, like, I think what sometimes happens is that as the government talks about going to level 3, people heave a big sigh of relief and go, oh, we're going to level 3. And she says that she'll be announcing exactly how that will work on Monday, today. Don't get the idea that it starts today. Remember that level 4 was going to be a minimum of 4 weeks, and that 4 weeks ends on Thursday, I believe. The Prime Minister will announce today if we're going to go to level 3, and she will also announce what day that will begin. So don't go screaming out and thinking everything has changed right now. Look, there's Margie. Lovely to see you, Margie.
Hi. I think I've got things working. Can you hear me properly?
Oh, good. I can, and so can our listeners and viewers.
And you can see me. Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, fabulous. Yeah. Look, what a bonus. I must admit, if you tilted it down a bit or stood up a bit high, it wouldn't cut you off at the chin, but, you know, we can cope with that.
Maybe we don't want to see the double chin.
All right.
Is that better? That's a little bit better.
Yes, I think so. Yes, Margie, what a pleasure it is to have you back on the show. Margie, of course, has been doing many programs with Arrow FM over the years, and she is now, as we all are, in isolation, but I suspect coping very well, Margie.
Yes, well, you know, I think it's our age group. I'm allowed to say I'm plus 70, and I grew up in the time when Mother bought stuff in bulk, and we always had food in the house, and she grew, you know, she had fruit trees and so on. And that's something I think a lot of the retired people get into, you know, having a bit of their own self-sufficiency. I wouldn't say complete, but are able to probably cope. So we've been very lucky. You know, we live on an acre of land, and we've been here about 8 years, and we've built up a nice little food supply system, should we say.
Yes. Yeah, so you must be very, very well prepared for this. So what kind of produce do you have?
Yeah, so we have sorry, someone's trying to ring through, and this drives me mad when we're on the phone. My husband's taken the call. So, sorry, what do we have? Well, over summer, it was a really bad summer. We had not a great crop, but we had enough to freeze. So we've got all sorts of beans. I hate beans, but we've got beans.
Yeah, they're easy to grow.
Easy to grow stuff. And I think one of the things you learn quite quickly is to grow the stuff you eat. Don't try growing kale if you don't like kale, because I can't stand kale. But, you know, everything, and the salads weren't great, but we've managed quite well. Strange enough, we still got tomatoes and cucumbers and radishes, but no lettuces.
Yeah, I've still got a few tomatoes on the vine. They're pretty much the green ones that are left now, but we did all right out of tomatoes.
Right, because that's something people start to, you know, they always have these fantastic tomatoes, and just when your tomatoes are kind of looking all right, the supermarket has bulk. You know, it has lots at a very cheap price.
That's right, really cheap, and you think, all that work.
Yeah.
But there's a particular satisfaction in growing your own stuff, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, the other thing about growing your own stuff, you know what's going into the freezer or into the bottle. It's not with any extra strange things, you know, that to preserve it. Although I do say to everyone, our house is one that you can't be a diabetic in because you use a lot of sugar in preserving. Yes, you know, I think that, as you say, there's a joy in growing stuff, and this is the time. I've been fascinated, though, Michael. You know, seedlings have sold out just before the lockdown. Seeds have sold out. Now, that might be hopefully an ongoing. Yes, I know, and I hope it's going to be ongoing, so that people start to enjoy that as a pastime. I know
You mean
young families are
cultivating
busy.
their own seeds?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Or at least growing something, even if it's just an
Mm.
odd, buy some at the supermarket. You can buy seedlings, um,
Mm.
that sort of stuff. So I'm hoping that that will be one of the lasting changes we have. That people can
Yes.
grow their own stuff and get an enjoyment from their home. We
Mm.
always look outwards, but our homes are all right. I always have to qualify. We live in Carterton in the Wairarapa, and there will be a lot of inner city people who can't do this. I would be interested if we get into allotments. Britain had all those
Mm.
during the war. I think there
Yes.
are some areas in New Zealand that are starting to have allotments, which means that
I think
people
that's
who
true.
are
Yeah.
in, yeah,
Mm.
and,
But
and
also, Maggie, you talk about in the city, but you can grow a lot in pots. If you've got a little
yes.
balcony or something, you can get a fair amount of stuff happening out there.
Yes, I know, it's amazing. I mean, and they're probably easier to control because
Mm.
we've got about, how can I explain it? My husband, when we first moved here, borrowed, or I think we bought, no, or borrowed, anyhow, a very big rotavator. I mean, it was enormous. I must show you a picture one day. And he dug
Yeah.
up part of a paddock. And so we have a very large vegetable garden.
Yep.
We haven't got that many fruit trees, but the few we did plant in the beginning are now producing, and that's another thing. The other thing, Michael,
Mm.
I don't know if you've noticed, people are sharing. I
Yeah.
notice
Yeah.
on our neighbourly, people will say, "I've got a lemon tree that's hanging over the footpath. Come and collect,"
Yeah.
or "I
Yes.
leave a bag of feijoas," or whatever.
Well, apart from the fact that it's a good neighbourly thing to do, it makes so much sense because if you just cannot consume everything that you produce yourself, however much you may be bottling and freezing, Margie, there's always something left over for other people. And if you do it smartly, you can have friends of yours producing one type of thing and you produce another, and between the two of you, you get a good share of each.
That's right. Well, the walnuts are my favourite because, walnut trees take a long time to grow. And I have a friend who has an enormous walnut tree. And he said a few years ago, "Would you like some walnuts?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well," and he opened the garage and there were about 10 large sacks of walnuts. So he was only too pleased to get rid of them. And they didn't have chicken, so we gave them eggs. So it becomes a bit of a barter. Yeah. No, that I quite agree. That being able to share and to barter is another way of building up your own supplies.
Yes.
But yes, neighbourliness is important.
There are all sorts of satisfactions in growing, and one particular satisfaction I have is in compost. Because it's a dual purpose thing. It's providing you with that excellent soil, but it's also somewhere to recycle all your kitchen scraps and your lawn cuttings and everything, so that you're not burdening the council with your rubbish.
Yes. I wish that plastic would be more compostable, because even though we try very hard not to buy with plastic, you cannot get away from wrappings, and it drives me dilly because I know that's going to go into the landfill.
Yep.
But I also do, like, these are things that you learn from your mother, but recycling old T-shirts, cut them up into cloths, to wipe down things. Don't buy those wipes and things. You can make your own.
Yes.
There's a lot of very simple ways of using what you would throw away. And yes, compost. I love that. I was giggling when you said compost because people get obsessed by their compost. They
do,
really
don't they?
do. I think.
Yeah,
I
and
think it was
everybody's
Anna
got their
Marie
method.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And we watch Monty Don a lot. The British gardener, and every few programs he talks about his compost. It's obviously, but then you look at his garden and you can realize that's what he's done. And the other thing is, now that we're autumn, is leaves. You can make a leaf bin. collect your leaves, and they break down into something beautiful. So that it's all sorts of things that don't have to be thrown away. We've become such a throwaway society. It's quite sad.
Yes, your first thought in autumn is, I've got to rake up all those leaves. But next, then, as you say, break them down a bit and use them as an excellent mulch, which means less weeding. So everything kind of has a purpose in the garden.
Yes, I think
I'm just wondering, Margie,
yeah.
You garden on a much bigger scale than I do. I've just got a few raised beds that I built and things. So things like composting, is that a difficult thing to do when you've got a rather... I mean, do you even bother with that when you've got quite large beds to manage?
Oh, no, we use it every year. And, it's the whole 3-bin thing, one and then you turn it and you turn it again. And then Donald still sifts it. So... because I grow flowers as well. I have a little bit of a English garden. I'm sorry. I know someone said to me, you should be all indigenous. I said, no, I still love the clematis and the roses. So every year, especially in autumn and winter when the beds are clear, we can lay down some more compost. The other thing is that if you have chickens or any kind of animal or access to manure, if you can add that too, you're adding quite a lot to the soil. And the wire wrapper, well, particularly where we live, you just have to dig down 6 inches. Well, I'm not allowed to say 6 inches. I don't even know what that is in centimetres. But it's stony. We're on clay,
right, yeah.
And there's also a riverbed. So you can make lots of pathways with those little stones or at the bottom of your pots, But yes, so you have to build your soil up. You have to keep doing it. Don't do it once. Do it every year. And as I say, you say, all your scraps, your grass cuttings, just spread them out a bit. You don't want them to rot. But yes, there is a bit of a science to it, but it's not the most difficult thing to do.
No. So, Margie, we've been a bit freeform. Let's just pull back and say, if you wanted to give advice to somebody who wanted to be more sustainable, what would be the kind of process that you would recommend for them? We seem to be getting a huge amount of noise, but no, it's settled down again. Carry on. Sorry.
Okay. I might have been touching something.
No, it's a kind of...
Oh, okay. That sounds terrible. It might, getting back to where would you start? First of all, you've got to look at how much space you've got and decide, are you going to grow things? Yes or no. Yes, if you've got enough space and you dig a garden, or like you've done, is raised beds are a great idea. They're easier to control. And for us oldies, when you don't want to sort of grovel on the ground all the time, your knees give in and your back gives in. And then, sorry, just put my ear back in. And then, or otherwise pots, so that's the one thing. Start a compost heap. Choose some easy things to grow. Don't try with some exotic, strange thing. And I would suggest in the beginning, buy the plants. Don't, if you want to start seed bed, but buy plants so that you get a quick feedback that you're happy with. I know a lot of people start on chard, and if you like it, okay. But we did that for some years, and after a while, it actually our scene. So we've moved on to other things. So those are the few things. The other big thing in Wairarapa is water. Be aware that you're going to need water for your plants. They're a living thing. They need to be looked after. So that's that. The other thing is then, if you want to get something like chickens, you can get chickens in quite a small area, but just remember they are creatures who love to scratch. So you've got to be careful. Free range might not suit you. We're very lucky. We've got a paddock we've now cut off, and we've got our chickens and my 2 ducks. But my ducks are 2 males. I decided when I had a pair, they laid too many eggs and all the little ducklings.
Oh,
the mother
right.
took them into the freezing cold water of our waterway, and they all died. And I couldn't take it anymore.
Oh.
So now we've just got Derek and Dudley, who just keep us happy.
Yeah.
So animals and things, for most of us with smaller areas, you've got to really realise they have to be cared for. It's like having a pet, a dog. You've got to feed them, keep them healthy, all those things. And then I would say bottle and freeze. If you have a space for a freezer, get a freezer. Because as you're saying, it's awful to, people have extra. And if you can, in a network, share, it makes a huge thing. So it's not that you live in total isolation. That's the big thing. It's not total isolation. It's learning to use what you have and how we as a community can work together. That's a big lecture. Sorry, Michael.
No, that's exactly what I was after. Yes, and I guess in each of those cases you talk about make sure that you've got water, but also research those plants and find out what particular requirements they have. If you vary how much water you provide for your tomatoes, you can end up with split skins and all the rest of that. So you need to know a little bit more about it.
Yes, and the thing is I didn't mention, but rotation. You can't plant the same thing in the same place all the time. So if you have 3 beds, it's always quite a good thing that every year you plant a different thing. Because, for instance, potatoes and tomatoes, they need to be changed every year. They get all sorts of... And some plants are very ugly to grow. We've given up growing cabbages because cabbages just, get, white fly and white moth. And they're terrible. So, and again, I watch the supermarkets. So when there is a glut of something, go and buy it. And I haven't gone on to, things like buying in bulk, if you can, if you've got that little bit of extra money. Yeah.
Yes, so there are obvious economies in buying in bulk, and it means you're never going to get cut short. As people went into this the lockdown period, everybody got worried about flour, didn't they? So they all went mad on buying flour.
I know.
It might have been useful to have had flour already.
Yes, I think that the whole flour thing, it did sort of, amuse me. It was a bit like the toilet paper, but the flour, I think, relates to activity. So if you've got children, you cook with them. But the idea that you're all going to make bread, listen, you can get bread at the supermarket. It's not like we're running out of bread. But yes, we buy in bulk. And I was talking to my sister, and we remember our father rebuilt the kitchen in the 1950s, and for some reason or other, he built like you'd open the door and it was like a bin behind it. It was at an angle. So we had flour, always had flour in the house, and we always had sugar. So I don't know we came from Ireland, so I don't know, maybe he's still thinking of a potato famine or something, but he made sure we had a lot.
I remember those drawers that used to come out at an angle. They kind of came out like that, and they were just absolutely full of things like flour, and you just kind of scooped out what you wanted.
That's right. I mean, I've never seen them since, but they were good because they were steel, so the mice couldn't get in them. Because at the moment we've all got I don't know about you, but there's been a lot about mice that are coming in now that it's autumn, coming into the house. And you've got to be really careful that you keep your food in good containers. That's a real issue. Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry. Go on,
No, carry on, Mike.
No, I was just saying this, buying in bulk, it may seem expensive when you do it, but it does mean you've got it, for a full time. People went crazy when they thought, now it's locked down, they'll never get food again. Well, if you have a very basic list, and the other thing is, which I have learned at this time, look at the back of your cupboard. You'll be surprised what is still lurking
Do you know what I've been doing, Maggie? There's the New York Times. I've got the app, and I get the New York Times on my phone, and they have a special section on stuff at the back of your pantry and how to create fabulous meals. And I've been trying out things that I would never otherwise have eaten, just because you go, oh, look, I seem to have a can of lentils back there, or I've got, look, there's some cannellini beans, and there's, what is this, sumac, and, there's all this stuff that you'd forgotten about, and you turn it into a great meal.
Well, I found a packet of rye flour. Now, rye is not, it hasn't got as much gluten as, wheat flour. So making rye bread is always really tough. So I thought, and what we'd run out of was little crackers, while you watch TV. Anyway, I made rye crackers. Well, they cracked your teeth. They were so hard.
Really?
even the mouse wouldn't take them. So, yes, but there is fun. That's actually quite creative too, don't you think? So at a time like this is to start thinking, in an expanding way. Don't keep to your old, routines. Think of something else. And
this is a good time, Margie. Oh, sorry, Margie. I was just saying this is a good time for experimentation, because I've realised through poor experience, never try out a new recipe when you've got guests around. Experiment.
Oh, no, definitely not.
Because I remember making, I thought, lentil burgers, I'll try that. Well, honestly, if it had said, here's a recipe for building roof tiles, then it would have been perfect.
That's
and
right.
you can make those mistakes, in the privacy of your own little bubble, and then tick off the ones that work. And then when you finally do have guests around, you're not subjecting them to your failed experiments.
So horrible. That's right. No, that's right. And the other thing is I think when people are so busy, they don't have time to develop other interests like gardening or hobby or woodwork. Now, I always giggle because, I joined the men's shed a few years ago.
Yes.
Really was to learn how to frame pictures. And for about 2 years, I went quite regularly. I'm not going so much anymore. But what I did learn was how to use a drill. And Dorrell says, the worker, my husband, says I'm the woman with the drill. Because the other day I made a hot frame, a cold frame. I had some old frames, and we had glass must have been from a window. So I made a frame, and I've got two now in the garden to start up your seedlings. But yes, so there's a few things, although I think there was somewhere mentioned, be careful of starting, I think don't strain yourself or don't do odd things you've never done before. Because people might be starting dangerous activities.
That's right. Well, ACC have specifically said this is not the time to be going up ladders and doing difficult jobs, because we don't want the hospitals to be burdened by people who've fallen off ladders, electrocuted themselves, cut their hands or whatever. Not a good time to be doing dangerous stuff.
That's right. No, I mean, and that should be all the time. People do the most dangerous things, thinking climbing up ladders. I mean, there's been some incredible adverts about people I think it was ACC put out a whole lot about falling off ladders and things like that. So yes, if you're doing a lot for yourself, a lot of do-it-yourself, and gardening as well. I have a husband who nearly cut his finger off with the hedge clippers, with the motorized hedge. I don't know what he did. He put his finger in the wrong way. The other day, he also put his finger in the borehole pump because it wouldn't work and got caught in it. Really, I've learned to be, a nurse and all these things,
Well, there you are. You're learning new skills.
Absolutely. And do I say, I know we've talked a lot about growing and bottling and all that. There's some 2 or 3 new programs. I think there's a Jamie Oliver, which is using stuff that you've got, although his pantry must be fantastic because he's got the most incredible stuff. And I think Nadia Lynn is also starting one. and they're very useful just to give you, simple recipes and things. Yeah, so there's quite a lot. Gosh, we've been speaking quite a long time, haven't we, Michael?
That's right. Well, just before we do say goodbye, is there anything you feel we've missed? I tell you what, this time of year when we're still in isolation, what do you recommend that we throw into the garden right now?
Well, first of all, you need to do your preparations. So dig it over, take all the weeds out, and there are things you can plant. You can start planting your brassicas, which are the cauliflowers and the cabbages and things like that. Autumn has a little last spurt. I don't know if you've noticed. For instance, suddenly the roses have a whole lot. So there's a little time to get things started. Of course, good old chard grows through winter. Your root things you can put in your things like beetroot, and I think carrots can go in now. But if in doubt, look it up. And I always want to say, our friend, I'm blank now, who's on your board.
Gareth Winter.
Gareth writes the most wonderful thing every week in the newspaper, and he gives you really up-to-date stuff. So he's worthwhile. Yes, so you can do stuff now, but the main thing is clear your beds, get your compost on, and collect those leaves, and bottle. I mean, bottle like mad if you can get hold of stuff. Quinces are on the go, and you can do wonderful things with quinces. Old-fashioned.
Yes, it's very versatile because even though it's a sweet, it works very well in things like mutton stews, and it's a great thing to just toss into your roasts. Not your roasts, but, your casseroles and stuff.
Yes. I make quince jelly, which is lovely. Right, Michael,
right.
You've got a long day
Margie,
for you too.
Well, no, it's a real pleasure to have you on. It's been interesting. The listeners will note that there's a kind of, I don't know, it sounds like when I was young we used to listen to the BBC. When I woke up in the morning I could always hear the BBC news going, and it always had this kind of sound going on in the background. Yeah, no, I always associate the voice of authority with that sound, so it's been quite a good thing to have in the background to your talk, Margie.
Okay, right. Well, Michael, I love working with you, so, thank you for this time. It's also sharing time, which is great. Keep in contact.
Yeah. Well, let's talk again, and meanwhile, enjoy all those projects that seem to be ongoing with you.
Yes, thank you, Michael. I'll see you soon. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Right. So that was Margie. And sorry for the quality of that call, but the quality of what she had to say was excellent. So that was really good. Now, today's the day when the Prime Minister will be announcing whether we're going to level 3 or not. As I said before, don't presume that means it happens straight away. Usually she has a briefing at 1 o'clock, but I believe that the Cabinet are having a really extended meeting today to make these decisions, and so it won't be until 4 o'clock today when they make the announcement. You have to keep in mind that they don't just make these announcements on an intuition or a whim. There's a lot of research and information and collating of information in order to make the right decision. You may have heard all sorts of people with differing views, and that's fine. Those differing views are taken into account, but in the end, even though some people might say, we should get out of level 4 earlier, I think the government are doing a really, really good job of making the right decisions at the right time. If it was up to me, I'd say, let's hang on to level 4 a bit longer. But if the Prime Minister says we're going out of it in a few days' time, I'll respect that decision because it's based on a sound knowledge of things that I might have opinions about, but they're uninformed opinions. We love to mouth off, don't we, and say why we think somebody's got it right or wrong. I'm trusting that all of the people in government, all of the experts in the health department, etc., are taking all of this information, sifting through it very carefully in order to make what they consider to be the best possible set of decisions on our behalves. So I really do appreciate the hard work. You can see that they're getting a bit tired. Well, I'm glad they're doing it, not me. Thank you very much to the government and the health department and everybody who's working so hard on trying to keep us alive and well. I, for one, appreciate it. Good on you. All right, that's it from me. I'll be back tomorrow talking with Lynn Patterson, your mayor, and somebody from the DHB about their perspective on exactly what to expect from the council's point of view. All right, that's it. Goodbye.